the band play.
100K on the protect, living life with no regrets. Peace out when I get dressed. Summertime, I'm with a fresh. Put a leg behind her head. Night, she gonna bed. Every day it's a new test. I just keep chasing these chicks. Living life with no regrets. Living life with no regrets.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to the next episode of Sled Talk. I don't even know which number this is. It doesn't matter. But today's guest, we've got Cody Cornwell, better known as Cody the Conqueror, right?
Yes, sir. It's always weird hearing it, but the more I start to grow and do my branding thing, it's like, oh, I'm no longer, Cody Cornwell. It's like Cody the Conqueror is more what I'm known as.
Hell yeah. Cool, Cody. I appreciate you taking the time to jump on the podcast. I know we were running behind schedule, and then you and I have also been back and forth for the last month, it seems, trying to schedule this virtual podcast. So I appreciate you, moving your schedule around and being here today on the show.
Yes, I appreciate you for having me, man. Yeah, it's something we've been talking to for a while and trying to nail down for a while as well. So
100%.
Yeah,
we're here though. Cool.
Finally,
Cody, let's jump into it. So for the listeners and the viewers, let's give a little bit of introduction. Who are you? Where are you from? How old are you? What do you do? Let's just dive right into personal side.
Cool. Yeah. So, I actually just turned 26. It's something that definitely surprises most people.
Sure.
Not only because I don't look 26, I already look like I'm 30. But the levels that I'm moving at now, it's humbling that people are like, how are you doing that at your age? Personally, I feel like I should be farther, so I kind of react the other way. But yeah, so I mean, my story wrapped up, it's something that could be this whole podcast,
totally,
to be honest.
Dude, before you go off on this, like as a side note, I've been following you for quite a while with all the snowmobile stuff, and I align heavily with your story. And just from what I've seen, obviously I've never really talked to you one-on-one until now. But all the posts, all the stories, like I am very much aligned with your mindset around a lot of topics, which we're going to get into here. And so I'm really, really looking forward to this. Sorry to cut you off on your flow there, but I just wanted to set the tone and the foundation for my excitement. So, all right, jump into it.
No, man, I appreciate it too, because it's something where I very quickly realized I've always been a polarizing figure.
Yep.
I'm one of the guys that barely passed high school. I was one of the kids that I rebel against authority, and it necessarily didn't do me any good growing up. Yeah. But now that I'm doing my own thing, it is kind of a superpower in a sense that I'm just confident in what I think. I'm gonna say it how I want. I'm gonna like listen and take an input as well, right? I'm not a complete moron, and I'm not gonna think that I'm always right. Sure. But yeah, I definitely look at the world a certain way, and it rubs some people the wrong way, and then the other people that really fuck with that vibe and the same mentality, they're gonna grab on and come along, with me on this ride. So yeah, I definitely do appreciate that.
100%.
So I guess going back to my background, I'm from a small town in Ohio. We grew up, broke. My family's been homeless before. Dad got out of the military and just worked a factory job. My mom waitressing and, doing some stuff at colleges, and again, multiple degrees, but just doing some BS at colleges, never really worked their way up, right, is the best way to put it. Right. And, I knew I wasn't going to college. I turned down my scholarship, or I didn't even attempt to get my scholarship because I knew like I can barely pass high school, let alone a collegiate athlete.
Yeah, sure.
And, my twin actually went that route, which is a really extremely interesting story for a whole nother time.
Your twin?
I decided to go. Yeah.
You have a twin? Yeah. Oh boy, I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh yeah. And he's the opposite. He's like yoked out, He was like the receiver type, I'm the lineman type.
Got it.
So, yeah, when it came down time to kind of decide on what I was doing, which kind of starts at 16, if you want to be honest,
Okay.
right? Like where am I going to take everything? Am I going to start building a resume for college to get sponsors? What exactly am I going to, do? I decided to go the technical route, skilled trade,
Yep.
and I decided welding, right? And honestly, it's because I got accepted into the program, right? And um, when that happened, I then went. I was really good at it. I can pick up on it really quick. I excelled, and I ended up going to a technical trade school instead of college. And then right out of that, I went into the oil industry. I was actually recruited before I even graduated to go out to Great Falls, Montana,
Okay.
and start pipe welding right away.
Gotcha.
So that's where that whole story from, welder to wealthy that I
Yep.
always push
Yep.
was really the start, man. And at 19, I passed my first weld test. It's X-rayed. It's one of the hardest tests for anyone out there. It's a 6G restricted, 2-inch. I can't even think of the other. I was so long ago, right?
Sure.
Whatever else the restrictions were, and we weren't even allowed to use like grinders or anything. We had to do it all by hand.
Okay.
So if you messed up, there was no really fixing it. And I pass it.
Damn.
This is a test that most people can't pass in their 30s.
Got it.
And most people can't pass in general, let alone. So I'm basically, 8 months into that job, and I realize I think I might have been technically 20 once I had the realization that it's kind of a midlife crisis at 19. There's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
There's no higher spot that I wanted to get. I was where I wanted to be in my 30s at 20.
Got it.
And at that point is then when I started, my entrepreneur, journey really, really kind of started in opening my mind up to everything.
Sure.
So, I mean, I guess, with that, without getting into too much of the nitty gritty, that could go on forever is, I realized that I didn't want to live that lifestyle of the blue collar rat race.
Yep.
Everyone wants to talk about in the blue collar world that it's the rat race of college, but they conveniently don't talk about the rat race of the blue collar world.
Mm-hmm.
And they and that's where there's a lot of pushback from people that I personally get, because I'm very outspoken about that.
Totally. Which
And
like.
And it's not yeah. And it's not even necessarily like me sitting there saying, blue collar people are dumb people. I think a majority of them, unfortunately, they are. If you're talking life in general,
Sure.
They might be good at their skilled trade, but that's a whole different conversation. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand being in the blue collar world anymore.
Yep.
It was just talking about football games and drinking beer after work and maybe working on my truck, talking about football when they were in high school, just being has-beens.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't stand it at my being. And, then there's the search of finding yourself. And, that's when I realized I love psychology. I go from pipe welding to studying human psychology and,
No wonder you're in marketing.
Yeah, exactly. Starting a marketing company,
Yep.
man. It was like, okay, I love to make money. It's that Conor McGregor quote. I have an unhealthy obsession with spending money and a healthy obsession with making it.
Yeah. 100%.
So how am I going to make that energy of loving human psychology and then also creating a life that I want, being travel, freedom, but then also making a hell of a lot of money. So the marketing agency started. My business partner, Ron Early. I don't know if you follow him.
Is it
him at all?
Sales God?
Sales God.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't follow him, but I know who he is.
So when I brought him on, man, yeah, great dude. When I brought him on, it was like life changed.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's kind of the quick version, I guess, of exactly where I'm at now. But it's definitely been a ride, or a roller coaster, to say the least.
Sure. And dude, so and as you and I talked before we started the podcast, so a little bit of backstory for me, I come from the blue collar background. So my dad and my family members are really successful, which is success. The word successful is relative, right? But
Right.
you know, my dad's a self-made millionaire with construction. So he operates heavy equipment. He does like stream restoration stuff in Montana. I think I told you when we first connected, I grew up not too far from Great Falls, Montana. And you know, both my uncles are really successful with they're electricians. One of them is a real high up head supervisor for a really big electrical company, and the other uncle owns his own electrical business. And so something I want to talk to you about is, you know, I grew up operating heavy equipment. I used to be best friends with a shovel. I used to build communication towers. I traveled all over, you know, the Pacific Northwest, down into California and Vegas and stuff, building communication towers and whatnot. So I've definitely, you know, lived that life. Did a little bit of like farming. Used to work for John Deere company, and I kind of just had this realization that like, I don't want to do this my whole life. Like, this is backbreaking. This is not cool. And I really liked social media. And so in 2017, I created a digital marketing agency. And, you know, I in February 2nd of 2018, I stepped away from my 9-to-5, my day job, and I left all of that behind, and I haven't looked back since. And so something I want to talk to you about, because another thing too is that, you know, as snowmobilers and in the snowmobiling industry, I would say that the demographic of sledders are predominantly blue collar, right? And so for some of our listeners, this is they're either going to stop and think about what we're saying, or they're just going to, you know, give us a bad review, which is fine. Because like there is a reason why you are where you are today, and same as myself. And so something that I want to ask you directly, and why I was talking the backstory of like my family, like I just kind of had the realization that over time I'm going to be able to make more money from my computer than I'd ever make in a skilled job. While, this is the big part, Cody, while owning my own time. Since 2018, I've done whatever the hell I want to do every single day. Now, sure, have I made some financial mistakes? Have I acquired debt? Have I made, you know, whatever it is? Absolutely. 100%. I've screwed up royally, but I did it all myself. Definitely. I take full responsibility for all of it, and I am where I am today because of the choices that I've made, period. And so, like, there was a bit of disruption because, you know, again, my family being successful in the blue-collar world, and then here I am making money off my computer and traveling everywhere. It kind of, like, created some friction, right? And so I wanted to ask you, like, you know, were you obviously faced with a little bit of that friction as well? So if anybody's out there right now, because I'm sure we're probably pulling some strings on a couple people that, like, they love to ride sleds. They wish they could ride more, but maybe they have a construction job or they're in the blue collar line of work and they have something within them that tells them that like, hey, maybe there's something more out there for me, but like, I'm scared to take the jump. I'm scared. What is my family going to think? How are they going to react if like I go and do this weird thing that I'm really in love with or whatever it is? And so like, it's a two-part question for you, Cody. Like, talk a little bit about some of the flack that you've been given from people and maybe people that you didn't think would talk poorly about your decisions. And then the second piece is like advice to any of our listeners right now that are maybe like on the edge or kind of have an idea and they're scared to move forward with it. I know that's a lot, but dive into it.
No. The flack, man, it was huge because I was one of the people from my small town that made it. Like that's considered making it where I'm from was pipe welding, specifically the little welding niche that I was in,
Sure.
right? You got two ways to get to the top. You're either underwater welding or you're pipe welding. And, you know, I had done it in one of those. And I then, it's weird because it's a story I've told many times, but so it seems normal to me.
Sure.
But after I wrapped up my pipe welding contract in Great Falls, I go back home. So the way welding contracts work, you're done with the refinery and the contract, like there's no more work to done. You finish the construction.
Yep.
So you go back to your main, you know, home, and then you find your next contract, you move on. So I go back to my parents' house, right? And I'm celebrating Thanksgiving. That was my plan, then pick up the next contract. And this all comes full circle with the flack, I promise.
No, I'm with you. I'm tracking.
So I head home and I'm sleeping back in the bed that I was sleeping in high school. Actually, not even in high school because we were living in a garage. Different story, different time. Um, but I'm back in this place that I thought I had left. And although it was temporary, it got to me. I hated being going back to my hometown. I hate everything about that place. I hated seeing the heroin addiction that came through, the opioids, and everything. It angers me even saying it
Sure.
right now. And I literally heard a quote, and this is a quote for everyone to grab on if you're trying to do something, and it gives me goosebumps right now saying it. You're never going to get crazy rewards without taking crazy risks.
That's
And I
facts.
heard that, and I had been searching. I'm like depressed, man. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. You know, that midlife crisis thing's going on. And I didn't have a contract, which is cool because that happens. I'm young in the industry. I got to meet more people, get different contracts. But I heard that quote, and I'm like, man, but what do I do? Like, at this point, I don't even know what really being an entrepreneur is. I literally thought I was going to best own a welding company. And, you know, I realized what's the craziest thing you can do? What's the difference or what are some similarities in self-made millionaires and homeless people? They go homeless or they take a risk that puts them in such an uncomfortable position. They either do or die, right? So I literally came to this epiphany. I started formulating a lie to my parents and everyone around me that loved me. I said I picked up a contract in Florida after Thanksgiving. I'm going to go down there. And I pack up. I had an F-350 at the time. I pack it up with anything I can fit, and I make the drive down there. And I get down there, and I realize how much it sucks being homeless, living out of my truck. I have no job when I get there.
Yep.
Completely lied. My parents don't know. Nobody knows.
Got it.
And I get down there, and I realize showering in gyms and being in the heat of Florida in my truck is miserable. And I have to make the call and tell my parents, I'm like, hey, can you guys co-sign for a travel trailer, which is normal in the welding industry to travel around and do that. Right. But they don't have the credit for it. And I had to break the news. And my mom called me crying.
Sure.
Just to,
as all moms would.
She calls me crying, and it's because, right. She loves me, and what are you doing? And I said I'll figure it out. Right. It is the basic answer, and there was always everyone questioning me. And this went on for 3-4 years, in and out of homelessness, living with mentors. I had someone I was working with that told me they were going to fire me if I didn't move in with them. I was never that dirty homeless person by any means, but I was definitely living in my car. I moved in with people that wanted me to run advertising for their company, and I'm helping however I can around the house and just for a bed to sleep in,
Yeah.
And I'm grateful. I'm grateful I made all those connections. But at one of those points, this was a pivotal moment where I had to double down on everything I did. And I had went back into welding at one point. I couldn't figure it out. I go pick up a full-time job, but not giving up on my dream.
Sure.
And I go back, I'm pipe welding, but I got to do a lot of traveling. And this contract was 4 days on, or 4 days off, 6 days on.
Got it.
And they were supposed to send me out to a new location. And as construction is, it's always sketchy as can be. So one location had OSHA show up.
Oh, nice. That's
and they go, okay, so we don't want to send anyone out there. We're just going to have the job site dry. And we're going to send you to a different location, but let's wait a little bit and see if OSHA leaves quick. And it started irritating me because I'm not getting paid because I'm not driving yet.
Sure.
And I'm getting super mad. And I'm reading a book, and it says a quote of, I won't even say a quote, I'll misquote it, but something to the extent of, if you wake up, he gave himself, it might be Rich Dad, Poor Dad or something of that nature, but if he woke up a certain amount of days truly disappointed in himself, not mad at his situation, not frustrated with work, woke up disappointed in himself, he would quit. No matter what position it put him, his wife, and kid in, he would just quit because he knows that he had enough skill to make money anywhere. And
Sure.
he thinks you deserve always a life that you wake up excited, not even maybe excited before, but definitely not disappointed in
Right.
yourself.
Right.
It's a whole different level of consistently waking up to that. And then you're questioning, like, why are we here and everything like that, right? So at that point, I called my my employer and I quit. I said, don't worry about sending me out anywhere. I quit, right?
Got it.
So in that, I begin my journey out. I figured I'm going back down to Florida. There was some circumstances that would give me an opportunity for a place to stay there. And I had all of my closest friends where, let's get together in Columbus and have a party at the bar, right? See you guys whenever I come back. I'm traveling around consistently. They know how Cody goes. So as soon as I get into the bar, everyone, kind of like huddles around a table. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, this is weird. Like, we do the hi, the quick shots, whatever. And they're like, by the way, man, like, we want to talk with you. And they have an intervention for me at the bar.
Jesus, really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're sitting at a bar, and which is funny, obviously, because it's a bar and they're having an intervention with me, but it's obviously not for alcohol or drugs or anything like that. But they're like, dude, you just left a very good job. It's worth adding, they're all in college still. And 3 or 4 of them, of the like 7, were collegiate athletes doing phenomenal national titles. Like, I don't hang out with average people, never have.
Yeah, sure.
And these guys are doing great things. So it's like, of course, I'm going to sit down and listen to these guys. Plus, they are my best friends. And they're like, what are you doing? Why are you chasing this? Like, they're basically telling me I shouldn't be going down here. It's dumb, and it's never going to pay off. And in that moment, it would have been very easy to hear what they had to say and go back to my job, or just, cower away or make excuses or whatever it could be, right? And they're only bringing me there because they love me, right?
Sure.
They're friends that cared. And I'm going in and out of homelessness when I had a job paying me, 6 figures plus. Like, it's crazy to think.
Sure.
And so when they said that, I just explained to them, I said, you guys don't understand the journey that I'm going through and the idea that I see. I had full belief in myself because I knew what was going to happen. I just had to stick around long enough to stick it out.
Yeah.
And everybody was dogging me. It's stupid, but we'll have fun tonight. Whatever, whoop-de-whoop. And my one person that was there, I'm like trying to plead with them, like, guys, just trust me on this. Just trust me. I was like, I'm telling you, you guys are going to get out of college. You're not even going to use your degrees. And, you best case scenario are going to live the average life that we all said we hated, that our parents put us in. Like, you guys are literally just repeating the process, but in college, and instead of working for a factory or whatever. And it was a very hard conversation, and no one understood. No one believed in me other than my one boy, Bo. And he looked at me and he looked at the group and he goes, well, watch it play out. Now, where this comes full circle for advice for everybody is every single one of my boys in that group now, every single one of them graduated college with very high, whether, some wrestling, some in track, my boy Nick, national champion in shot put, like my brother winning national titles. These are all very successful people, and not a single one of them are using their degree. And they all have told me and looked back at me and said, you were the leader, because when they got out, when you're an athlete, it happens also a lot. And let's say, like with military, my family is a lot of military people. You have a major transition to take. You're changing your entire life from being oriented to people telling you what to do, where to go, jump how high, And when that transition happens, it's easier to kind of just give in to the system. And they all went through that period of giving into the system, and then all of a sudden my success started taking off. And in my success taking off, every single person that was at that meeting now is doing something on their own whether it's, high in insurance sales. My brother co-owns a electrical company, sure as shit. My boy Nick, he manages, hundreds of real estate properties in Columbus. And all of
Nice.
these people turned back to me and said, you were the leader when you had no one to look up to. But that's
Dude,
the
that's
big
big.
message. That's the advice on the end of the flack and advice question is sometimes you have to have belief in yourself, not mindlessly, because we've all met those guys that are way too optimistic with things that don't make sense.
100%. Yep.
Which
Totally.
is also somewhere that people, fail. But in that, right, my success takes off and now all my boys are thriving. I just flew
Hell
last
yeah.
weekend. My family flies in and we just had a yacht party for my birthday,
Yeah, I saw your
right? Just
stories.
cause.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got video of my mom and dad jumping off a 100-foot yacht into the ocean. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I would never guess I would doing that. There were
Sure.
times when I was just hoping I could get those little tuna hamburger helper type
Dude,
of packs,
that's crazy. That is crazy how everything has come full circle.
Oh yeah.
That's insane.
So it's easy too to look at like I brag about I live a bougie lifestyle now.
Sure.
I used to be the guy that was like, oh, built, my truck's built, not bought. No. I bought it all and I had somebody else build it because now I allocate my time towards.
Hell yeah.
I allocate.
100%.
Think about this. No one actually likes working on their truck.
Right.
What do you like doing? Snowmobiling.
Mm-hmm.
In the byproduct, because you can't afford to have somebody work on your truck, you do it so you can go and get into these remote places or whatever, right?
Right.
No one actually wakes up in the morning and goes, man, I can't wait to turn that wrench. They might like the outcome of turning that wrench, but they
Sure.
don't like turning the wrench.
Yep.
And people can fight with me for that. And maybe there are
And they will.
people. Oh yeah, and they will. But the
For
big
sure.
thing is too is you can still like to do something like that, but I want to do it. I don't want to have to do it. So
Yep.
like I want to get back into welding, projects and stuff when I get a big ranch out here.
Sure.
Because I like building my own shit. I like having an idea and building it.
Yep.
But I don't have to no more.
100%. Totally different perspective. Dude, Cody, that's that's a lot to unpack there, right? And
Yeah.
I really appreciate you, being super transparent and vulnerable and opening up and sharing your story because I mean that's, there's not a lot of people that have gone through stuff like that. And so I think it's important for you to be able to share. And again, like I said too, like there's people that are listening right now that maybe aren't quite in the same situation, but have a calling on their heart to do more. And, you're just, all your success and everything you deserve credit for. But at the end of the day, like you're just some fucking dude from the middle of nowhere, Ohio, who struggled and has
Right.
turned his life into this. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a derogatory manner by any means. I'm just saying like, you're just some dude, you know what I mean? And so like
Right.
anybody out there, we're all just some freaking dude. And, as extreme as your story was, like you still, adversed and came out on top and pushed through. And I mean, I'm sure you're still faced with some struggles, business wise or whatever it may be, but you're still, progressing. And so it's super cool for you to share all that kind of stuff. It's definitely different, from previous guests that we've had on here. And this episode specifically is something that I've been looking forward to for a very long time because I knew it was going to be about this. And again, like I sound like a broken record, but like I just am very in tune and in parallel with your mindset and your story. And it's something that I definitely fuck with. I don't say the F word too often on this podcast, but I will say it for that because I mean it.
That's
So-
something that I was actually meaning to ask before too. I was like, I don't know
Yeah.
how much cussing he does or doesn't want on there, but
I mean, dude,
I guess I'll
like,
just do me.
well, that's the thing, right? Like at the end of the day, like and that's what's cool about this podcast. Like I'm just me, right? Like, and it's just like the tattoos things, right? Like, I've had people like, oh my gosh, you're in business. Aren't you worried that somebody's not going to want to do business with you because you have your hand tattooed? And I'm just like, in my opinion, like my entire sleeve represents trials and tribulations in my life and overcoming those. And so like, it's very near and dear to my heart and it has a purpose. And for me, like I run a couple of different businesses. Yeah, sure. You may be out there thinking to yourself whether or not you want to do business with me, but guess what? I get to do the same thing. I get to choose whether or not I want to do business with you. Right. And so if you're going to be the type to judge me off of my tattoos, like I don't want to do business with you in the first place. So there's a tangent there, but with the cussing thing, the only thing I've had with the cussing thing is my grandparents have been like, well, I don't think you should do that. I don't think you should talk like that. And so I've cleaned it up a little bit. The first couple episodes, we were drinking beer and cutting her loose for sure. But I've tamed up a little bit. But at the end of the day, dude, like, that's the biggest thing is just to be transparent and be ourselves, right? Like, why would we be anything other than that?
Right, which is the freedom aspect of everything, right? So there's two things we're all chasing is financial and time freedom, and then freedom to be ourselves. And that's where, your grandparents, obviously, they only love you giving you that advice. And I had the same thing. When I was never a social media guy. I actually so you said you like social media. I hated it. It was one of the things that kept me from wanting to do this.
Got it.
I now have grown to love it.
Sure.
But the cussing thing was a thing that people had told me as well. But when it comes down to it, the biggest compliment that I ever get is some people don't even necessarily say it as a compliment. And it's you're the same person I meet in person that I see online. And I think that's the biggest thing, man. I'll meet people that want to put on a persona online to think that they're
big time.
They're giving back to the masses. And then I meet them in person and it's all like, whoop-de-whoop. They're going to cuss left and right. And like, almost like they're trying to equal the playing field with me or like how, because I'll do my thing and they feel like they got to like catch up and they overdo it. And it's like this weird.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
100%.
So it's a give and take, and especially when people come from a different era. You got somebody like Joe Rogan now that's changing lives, and he's talking in the absolute way that I guarantee he lives.
100%. Absolutely. Totally. No, I mean, dude, so many like good points on this podcast, on this episode so far. I mean, we're already 32 minutes in and haven't even talked about snowmobiling. It's great. Let's actually get into, so it's Heavy Marketing, right? Is your company that you have right now. So let's talk a little. Go ahead.
It's heavy business automation, but heavy marketing I'm the marketing side of everything. It's my department. So, me and my business partner, he's got heavy sales, that's his claim to fame here. So,
Sure. So, let's talk a little bit about that for anybody listening. Obviously, like I know a little bit about what that means, automations and operations and marketing and sales and all that kind of stuff. But for those that are listening, like give us a little bit of a rundown of like what it is that you actually do with this company.
Yeah. So me and my business partner, we come in and there's so many people in today's world that are still working in the old world. And I started this before the pandemic, right? And everyone's seeing what the new world is, and it's almost like the pandemic just sped the online thing up, right? And when I got into this, it was, I wanted to, again, you're making money for people if you are, as a business owner, a B2B, right? You're going to go to a company, you're going to want to save them time or make them money. If you're not doing that, they're not going to pay you a good amount, right? And I'm trying to get rich as fuck.
Totally.
So how am I going to do that, right? And the heavy business automation is perfect because we go into a company, we evaluate what they personally need, right? This isn't like cookie cutter stuff for everybody. I'm going to go in, I'm going to see what you need, what can be improved, and then our goal is to automate their marketing and then their sales process. However that may look, right? Maybe they have a marketing team and we come in and consult, same with sales, or maybe we take that over for them. So, and you can do that from all around the world. So I still got my freedom along with all my employees.
Totally. How many employees? How big of a team are you running?
We just let a couple go, so we're about 7 right now.
Nice.
But now that we're starting to ramp up, it's time to bring on, more. And that's the scaling process that we're in the midst of going through.
Sure.
But the beauty of it, again, with the automation thing is, whether people like it or not, I go into a business and I figure out how softwares can automate what humans are slow at doing. So seven
Zapier,
people,
baby.
yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can I automate these things? We're like running the operation. We're having a multi-million-dollar marketing agency, man. It's like that used to be a 20-person thing, and we got it down to 7, and that's mostly salespeople, you
Yep.
know. So it's definitely awesome what we build, and as we scale, I'm excited to see where it goes.
Hell yeah, 100%. So a funny thing that I can't remember who told me, but you've probably heard it before. But automate, delegate, eliminate. That which can't be
There you
automated,
go.
delegate it. That which can't be automated or delegated, eliminate it. 100%.
Yep.
So do you have like a specific niche that you're doing all this marketing and sales stuff for these companies? Like, are you niched down into a specific avenue or?
Our avenue right now is high ticket investing.
Okay.
Depending on what the investing is, it could be anywhere from e-commerce syndications to we're getting ready to try to dabble in the real estate industry because there's obviously always going to be money in that.
Yep.
But the high ticket is the key point. I'm not here. I'm not here to make broke people rich. I'm here to make
Sure.
rich people richer. And
Got it.
and that's just what it is. My goal now, to be clear and not seem like a complete asshole, is to start putting out content that will allow people to get rich and then be able to afford to bring us in, right? But I'm not here to serve people that are in my DMs, asking for favors,
Right.
or asking me to run advertising for a couple $1,000s a month. Like that's just not. That's high school price. Like, so will you
Yeah.
pay a high schooler to do work?
Yeah. Totally. 100%. Interesting. Well, dude, I love that. Everything that you've got going on. I definitely think that there's potential and room for a conversation outside of a snowmobile podcast to dive a little bit deeper into all that kind of stuff. Cause I mean, I speak the same language with a lot of different things. And I'm excited to see this friendship continue to grow outside of the snowmobiling stuff too. So, Cody, yeah, we're 37 minutes in. I appreciate you giving I don't know what that was, giving the whole rundown on your entire story. It's super cool. It's something that I really, really fuck with. I'll say it again. I don't care. Because it's just true, dude. And you're a stud. And I'm glad that you came on here and talked about all that kind of stuff. So let's dive into snowmobiling. Okay. So
before we get into that, could I add
Yep.
something as a nice little bridge to it all? Because I
Yeah,
think this is what will
100%.
help a lot of people.
Yep.
Is
Take us away.
you have to understand what we're going to talk about next is obviously what you all want to listen to. But the thing is it's not doable at a certain level if you are broke. There are too many people that want to act like money is the root of all evil, but maybe not even that. Maybe some people realize that money is what they need, but they think their limiting belief is that the only way to make money is to give into the system. We are in a world today where you first think of a lifestyle you want to live and then you create it. You don't just go through life. So what we're about to talk about and the amount of money I spend to experiment with this sport is only doable. It is only doable because of first making a lot of money. So, I mean, that being said, I don't want it to be left as like, oh, there's this rich guy, here's this sport, and then let's just leave it. Like, that should be the motivation, right?
Got
That's
it.
what I want to
Yep.
leave people with is like, get rich as fuck to then do what you want with your life.
Yep. Snowmobiling or not, whatever it may be for you.
Right.
100%. And so let me ask you this. So you said most people think that money is the root of all evil. I've always thought of, and let me know your thoughts, I think the lack of money is the root of all evil.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, God, that's a whole different thought spiral. But yeah, it goes.
Yeah.
It goes both ways because Mark Bell, he had a quote that I will for sure butcher. He says he didn't have the resources, So because he didn't have the resources, he had to be resourceful. And now he
Yeah.
got creative, and then he created a product being the slingshot. I don't know if you're aware of all this, and it's a workout equipment that then catapulted his career and now has him one of the most wealthy people in, the lifting training industry.
Yeah.
So it's also there's dichotomy to everything, right?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Well, good. I mean, I think that's a perfect bridge. I think I said this on the last podcast too. I think maybe I should just step out and you be the host of Sled Talk.
It'll go all different directions. You're the only one keeping us on track here.
That's all right. So yeah, let's bridge our way over into the snowmobiling stuff. So you are relatively new to the snowmobiling industry, correct?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
So you started when?
I started the beginning of last year, which was 2020 or 2019? Or no, 2020, I believe it was. So, no, it would have been 2021. I had a buddy, my boy Chad. Thank you, Chad, for getting me stuck into this glorious sport of
I was going to
money
ask how
pits
you got
and
started.
yeah. So my boy Chad, he kind of does the same thing, the digital world, and he was running marketing for real estate syndication type of stuff, and he just invites me out. I literally just knew him, and this is also a big lesson too. Is like your network is your net worth, and then
Yep.
the digital world. If you allow yourself to be true to yourself, you're gonna meet people that you really actually fuck with in real life, right? So he invites me out. We had met previously before only for dinner,
Sure.
and he invites me out, and we go out to Wolf Creek, and that place is pretty wild. And right off the rip, I'm renting a sled.
Yep.
I'm renting a Summit 850. Who knows what model.
Sure.
Brand new. I was excited to not just get a touring sled, right? We're going backcountry riding.
Yeah.
I'm about to officially see what it is off the trails.
Yep.
And the first climb, I'm just stuck. I can't get up. I'm frustrated. I hate that I'm there.
Yeah.
I spent thousands of dollars on safety gear to go out for one weekend. You know what I'm saying? Because of course I want the best of the best.
Oh yeah.
And long story short, with that, I ended up totaling the sled. I slammed it into a tree at 30 miles an hour.
Good Lord.
So I slam a tree. The rental company didn't have insurance, so then I got to pull out my card. I didn't have a credit card because my credit was trashed last year.
Yep.
And I pull out my card, and I now got to buy this. I think it was like $17,000 brand new sled. Right off the rip. Like that's how that's literally where my addiction started. Is buying a sled that I just totaled out.
Oh my God, that is brutal. But just goes to show the importance of being where you're at now. Importance of money.
Bingo. And the inside joke with my crew officially this year, after 2 years of continually just hitting trees, is Cody the lumberjack instead of Cody the conqueror. So
I was gonna bring that up. I saw that in all your tags because you sure do like those trees. Maybe you should be on an Arctic climbing those trees, kitty.
Oh yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so first weekend out, total brand new sled, pay for it, and then what happens?
So once I was in that experience, I had always grown up like broke, but always wanting to do like motocross and these just adventuring things and wanting to be in Boy Scouts or whatever it was, right? But we were just always broke. It was what it was.
Sure.
I was grateful to at least play sports. And I very quickly realized, I have this lifestyle where I can do whatever I want. And now is literally the time to create the memories. These are the good old days. Why wouldn't I come back out here and do this? Because it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And it's not just flat nothing. It's not flat Ohio, flat Florida. It's like the mountains in Colorado, man.
Yeah.
And
different game.
after that, I texted my buddy and I'm like, yo, man, you want to search for a sled for me? I think I'm just going to buy one.
Jesus.
So it went from me totaling a sled to buying a sled right off the rip. And I went out, a couple more times, just a week here, a week there, and it's truly addicting. It's like no other sport I have ever done. I don't know how to
100%.
explain it.
You don't need
There's,
to. You can't.
yeah, everyone on here gets it,
Yep.
but
Yep.
it's to a different level too, because now, because of where I've positioned myself, one of the first moments on my second sled, which was a Polaris Chaos 155. So I'm trying to climb these hills in this 155, which is now the
Yeah.
size I just stick with.
Yeah.
I'm riding with Cowboy Cerrone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yep.
as I'm riding with him, dude, it's the most humbling experience. And I realized he was one of the motivating factors. I mean, I'm sure almost everyone out here knows who he is.
Sure.
They like his personality. He's gonna fight, but he's also gonna live his life doing all this crazy extreme sport shit. And here I am. He invites me out to go ride with him, and it made me realize that this is like a sport that I was almost drawn to before I was still in high school watching him fight.
Yeah.
And then I was able to ride with him. It was a very surreal
Dude, that's
moment, and then
crazy.
watch the UFC fights after with him in his Airbnb. It was an awesome experience, but very addicting, that's for sure.
Was that when you, because he's good friends with Matt, right? Was that when you guys were down at Matt Ince's Mountain Skills?
No, so it actually happened
Separate?
the opposite way. It's kind of the power of the blue check mark, right? You're gonna stick out. It's not just a status symbol, but it's like logistically you're placed above in the comments. And I commented on one of Cowboys' posts, saying I'm gonna be out there as well, ride safe. And he's like, "Yo, we should link up." And I actually met Matt at the cabin after watching the fights. And my boy Chad, he's been riding, for, a year and a half, whatever, more than me. All his friends, a lot more. They're the ones that got me into it and teaching it. He's like, "Yo, that's Matt Entz that just walked in."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, who?" I don't fucking know.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know this guy. Like, whatever.
Right.
Great dude. Amazing dude. Amazing riding and amazing teacher. But, like, I just didn't know.
Right. Sure.
But it was, that was an interesting way to start off my first season. That's for sure.
Dude, that's nuts. Yeah, that's not the case for most people.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I mean, dude, that's a hell of a story in and of itself. That clip right there could just be its own podcast.
Oh yeah.
So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about what you're currently on right now, the sled that you have.
Yeah, so I was one of the very few lucky and patient, not willingly patient, enough that I got one of the boosts. So I got the 2021 Chaos 155 boost. So that
it would
thing
have been in 2022.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 2022
Anyways.
then.
Yeah.
That's how much I care. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just
Yeah,
want the best.
no, I know.
People ask me what guns I have. I'm like, I don't know. I walk in, I get the best ones, and I walk out. Like,
Jesus. Hell yeah. Okay, so you were able to get one.
Yeah. So I put in actually two different dealers. The whole game of I put in for a pro boost at one, I put in for a chaos boost at the other, and I end up picking they gave me the boost, and it's the 155. So that thing is definitely fun.
Rowdy.
And the turbo is the cheat sheet.
Oh yeah. Track
Like,
speed,
that
baby.
thing is crazy.
Hell yeah. So so I kind of asked you this before we pressed record. And for those of you that weren't paying attention, you live in Florida, right? And so you would travel to go ride up in Colorado. And as of right now, it's March 8th. So the season's kind of coming to a close here a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you have any intentions of coming back up west and riding again?
Yeah, so that's where it gets interesting being an entrepreneur, right? You have time freedom, and I can do whatever the fuck I want when I want. But now it's deciding, what do I want to do with my time? And we're in a scaling process in our business, like I had mentioned before, and we have a lot of great opportunities. So I was supposed to go this weekend back for a trip, and me and my business partner just talked, and I'm like, dog, to be honest with you, I feel like I'm obviously going to be more productive, and I don't even want to step away for a weekend right now.
Sure.
You know,
Everything going on.
so this month is a big one for us. So for right now, it's this month. I'm still going to take off, and now it just comes down to how does April look with the snow being so weird this season.
Dude.
It's like hit or miss. There's you know the weird layers. Is it going to be fun? Riding in it.
Yeah.
Do I necessarily want to start, spring, cliff dropping and hitting ramps? Is that something I should even risk reward, into? So there's still a lot of thought going into it. I would like to ride a lot in April, to be honest with you, and just ride
Sure.
the season out.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it unfolds for you.
Right.
Did
You never
you,
know with me, man.
right? Yeah, that's what you had mentioned before. Did you by chance snow check a 2023?
No.
No.
After last year, man, I it's a supply chain issue. So I have nothing obviously against Polaris. I
Yeah,
had purchased a factory turbo 2021 Ski-Doo. That's where I got the years messed up.
got it.
And I was riding that and I was loving it. And then I got back on the Polaris when my snow check finally came in, and I'm like, I I absolutely hate the way that Ski-Doo feels.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely exhausted trying to do anything with it. And
yeah,
then I get onto my Chaos, being a Chaos, right? It's very
sure.
tippy and wants to live on the edge. I love it. I can get it on its side really easy. And I'm like, dude, uh, I don't want to snow check again. At this point, I don't want my money and my attention wrapped up in a sled that is definitely not going to come on time again this year. And
Yeah,
you're like playing this game of like I'd sold my sled. I had two other sleds, so I bought three sleds last year. So I had two at the end of the year and sold them both, not realizing the snow check issue was going to come.
dude, a
You
lot of
know,
people did that. They were stuck with nothing.
Yeah. So I'm at the point where when season comes, if I decide that I want one of those snow checks, I'll just buy someone out of theirs.
Sure.
I bought the 2021 Skidoo for like $19,000 just because of how the dude, you couldn't find sleds to save your life. And I'm like, dude, I
Yeah.
have to get out riding, and my snow check didn't come in, and no one was selling factory turbos. So I literally posted in a Facebook group, and I'm like, yo, so actually, I had a buddy post for me because as soon as people see the blue check mark, they want to
Yeah,
jump the price up like $3,000 on me. I'm like,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
my buddy posts for me, and he's like, "Yo, does anyone know anyone selling, the factory Ski-Doo turbo, blah blah blah, whoop de whoop?" And someone comments like, "Well, my buddy's got one. I don't know if he's selling it." I literally bought a sled off of a guy that wasn't even selling his sled just 'cause I offered him so much money. Like I
Oh
just
yeah.
had to. I had to get out and ride. I had spent
Yeah.
so I mean, my rig setup right now is probably pushing $300,000.
Yeah.
With my trailer,
Yep.
my sled deck that goes up over the truck, my
Oh yeah.
truck, and all the sleds, the safety equipment. And I'm like, I'm gonna miss it because I don't even have this snow check. Like,
Right.
I gotta buy something that I want to be on. So that was a whole mission
100%.
to start this season off.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah, but I mean, hey, this it goes back to this obsession that we have for snowmobiling, right? Like whatever it takes. And obviously every situation is relative to each person, but and another factor to it too is that like our time is so limited, right? Like the season is so short. We only have X amount of time. The snow this year has been a huge variable.
Dog
I mean,
shit.
here in Oregon, December, dude, I've never in my life ridden in snow like this that we had this year. In December, it was so epic. I mean, handlebar just can't see blowing over.
Oh,
Um,
really?
dude, it was insane. And I was like, super amped. And this is just setting up for an incredible season. And then January 6th, it started raining. And it just kind of all went away.
Oh,
And it hasn't been the same since. Just we'll drop 9 inches here, and then it'll warm up, and it'll rain, and it's just been all over the place, which has been super. I don't know. It's just been weird. I mean, I was watching a couple people's stories in Montana. It was just raining over there too recently, but it
What's
looks
the
nice in
elevation
Colorado.
there?
Where I ride is about 6,000 feet, for the most
Oh,
part.
that
So
yeah.
that's probably
So
half of
what I
what you
like
ride
about
in Colorado. Yeah,
yeah. So like that's the
yeah.
other that's the other problem with me is and this year I had some hormone issues on top of coming off a ketogenic diet where I'm up to 270. I'm up to
Okay.
275 in fact. And
Yeah.
so that's a big boy up in the mountains. I
Oh
live at
yeah.
sea level and
Yeah.
I'm the trailheads are 10,000 feet. Dude,
Yeah.
I'm dying, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah.
So it's something that's really interesting me or interesting to me is like where all these places are. And Colorado, from my understanding, is just the place to be if you want to ride as long as possible, unless you go up to the British Columbia. But
Sure.
I'm not going across that
Yeah.
border right now.
No, me neither. No, me neither. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely quite a bit of places we can get into, that 10,000 feet. There's some locations here in Oregon for sure that we can get into that. But I mean, most of the stuff I'm like 2 hours from home base to get into pretty good stuff.
Right.
I would say 10,000 is probably the highest, that I've ridden in, but it's not very common. But dude, I mean, where I live here in Oregon, we're like 400 elevation. And so pretty damn close to sea level, and it makes a huge
Right.
difference when you go up to that elevation. If you're not used to that, do you know or follow Brody Kern with Wake Up Wealthy?
Oh yeah.
Do you
Oh
know who
yeah.
that is?
Seems like a great guy.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Really good friend of mine. I brought him and his head of operations and head of sales, and then their content creator Hassan, and then one of their business partners Sean. I took them on a retreat because I do the retreats for the SledSend, and I brought those 5 boys up here at about
Yeah.
6,000 feet to ride. None of them have ever been on a sled before or anything. And Brody, like, he works out pretty hard, jujitsu and boxing, and
Right.
he messes
Gets
some
it.
shit up in the gym.
Yeah.
And bro, dude, they also, to their demise, they also vape like there's no tomorrow, and so that
Yeah.
didn't help by any means. But we go out day one, put them on these sleds, and by 2:30 in the afternoon, we were done. Sleds loaded on the way back to the lodge because they were just
Oh
so
geez.
smoked. They just couldn't.
Well, and
They just.
I get it.
It was so
I
funny.
get it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's one thing I commented on one of Cowboys' posts, saying I'm going to be out there as well, ride safe. And he's like, "Yo, we should link up." And I actually met Matt at the cabin after watching the fights. And my boy Chad, he's been
Yeah.
riding, for a year and a half, whatever, more than me. All his friends, a lot more. They're the ones that got me into it and teaching it. He's like, "Yo, that's Matt Entz that just walked in."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, who?" I don't fucking know.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
this guy. Like, whatever.
Right.
Great dude. Amazing dude. Amazing writing and amazing teacher. But, like, I just didn't know. Right.
Right. Sure.
But it was, that was an interesting way to start off my first season. That's for sure.
Dude, that's nuts. Yeah, that's not the case for most people.
Right. Right. Honest, because it's like every single person in the crew that we roll with has that mentality. So when
Oh,
my
yeah.
big self's going up there, they're understanding of that, Now
Sure.
they're going to push me and they're going to joke and, we're going to go back and forth
Oh, yeah.
all day. But that's again the part of the camaraderie, when you're out there, it's crazy. And muscle, what I'm realizing, I'm changing my complete way of training to actually drop, some muscle as well, because it doesn't matter if you can bench 400 pounds out there. It hurts you. If you want, it's almost like a known thing.
You
If
want the
Cody to
cardio,
come,
stamina.
what? But if you want Cody to come help you, flip your sled over, you better be ready to take a break, because all that oxygen, like if you just study the human body, you understand that for me to explode and lift a sled up, I'm using so much more oxygen. Let's not even use the elevation as a thing, but just
Yeah.
the amount of muscle that I have on my body is different. And then there's these guys, dude, they're like 150 to maybe 180 pounds. they're like walking on top of the snow like nothing's wrong. I take a step and I sink. And I'm like, dude, I hate, like, there's so many moments, dude. I'm in the middle of the day and I'm looking at everybody and I'm like, yo, I really think that if I had a helicopter on speed dial, I would pay $5,000 for them to lift me and my sled out of here. Because I am exhausted and I can't even walk in the snow right now, dude. When I was riding with Cowboy Cerrone, so I wear the Whoop band.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Hell yeah. So he was with his whole camp and they're all checking their Aura rings and their Whoop bands or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And there was a point where I'd almost passed out on the mountain. And Cowboy actually had to tell me, like, yo, listen, like, don't try and, show off. Like, you're clearly new to this. Just chill out a little bit, And but we looked at one point, I could hardly stand. And my heart rate went from 170 to 60 in an instant at that exact time.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So he's like, listen, you have to get out of here. There is no one coming to save you.
Right.
There's no extra people doubling up on a sled to ride your sled out. Like, so he's like, just ride smart. You know what I'm saying? So it's something that definitely presses you in a way you don't understand until you get out there. And then you're like, oh.
Sure. Yeah. 100%.
There's literally so many times, like, I don't understand why I do it sometimes. I guarantee there's so many people listening. Like, I'm riding and I'm like, why am I out here? I could be in Florida in the sun. I leave the best place to be in the winter to go to one of the worst places. We're waking up and we're going out to a trailhead and it's -20 and I'm excited. I'm like, man, the sun's going to come out. It's going to warm it up and it's going to feel great.
Oh, yeah. Dude, that's so fucking funny. That's good. Oh, my gosh. Jeff, do you have a question that you'd like to ask Cody? From time to time, Cody, I chime Jeff in. Jeff's the guy behind the camera and all the audio producing everything. Chime him in once in a while. You got something for Cody?
Perfect. Shoot it.
Well, what the hell?
I've been doing shit.
Oh, okay. All right.
Getting shit ready for tomorrow.
Okay.
If I think of something, I'll let you know.
Okay. He's been in and out of the office getting all this gear ready for another shoot for tomorrow, so he hasn't been listening to the whole thing, so he doesn't have anything
Jeff,
off the top.
Jeff, you're fired. Jeff didn't even prepare. You're fired, man.
Dude. Between you and me, Cody, it's not the first time. It's probably, sadly, not the last. He's got headphones on right now, so he heard all that. But, well, cool, man. I mean, dude, we're an hour into this podcast already, so I'm gonna go ahead and put you on blast, put you on point right now. So we'll wrap up this episode with the sled talk question of the day, Cody. So you got something that you would like to ask all the listeners and viewers?
Oh, most definitely. So my big question is, being new to it, if money was not a problem, like literally you woke up and someone gave you, I'm not kidding you, $1 million, what is the setup that you're going to have living out of state? And what I mean by that, to clarify, right now I got my F450 that has a sled deck that I ride 2 sleds up over top of the truck and also can pull a bumper pull, right?
Yep.
But in my head, I also then question, should I get a house there and just have like a Chris Brandt trailer and then travel 2 to 4 hours to drive instead of camping at the trailheads on trips? So yeah, my big question, what's the segment called again?
The sled talk question of the day.
Yeah, so
Is that what you're asking?
My sled talk question of the day would be, what would your trailer and truck and housing, I guess, setup be if you lived out of state and you flew into state to ride?
Hell yeah. Leave your comments below, whether you're on TikTok or watching on Reels. I think that's a great question. And
I got a question.
oh boy, here comes Jeff.
Uh-oh.
What do you
He
got?
said, I don't want to get fired.
He's like, I don't want to get.
I can hear him.
That's a good one.
When's he gonna come to Oregon and ride with us?
That's a good question. He
What'd he say?
wants to know. He wants to know when you're going to come to Oregon and ride with us.
Oof. If I can figure out a way to get my truck Because here's the thing, I'm not making that drive. My time is way too valuable to spend all that time in a truck, dude.
That's a trip.
So
Oregon to Florida or Florida, Oregon. My God.
I see, and I'd be
It's disgusting.
I'd be down to do it in April if I can figure out someone to flatbed my truck and my sleds. I don't even need my trailer, but that's 12 foot in height, on top of a trailer.
Yeah.
So now it's like, to be honest with you, I think the question is reversed. I think it's much
When are
more
we gonna
beneficial.
meet halfway?
No. You just come to Colorado.
Oh.
The best riding is in Colorado.
Well, that's
Stop
yeah,
messing
that's what I meant.
around.
Meet. Yeah, that's a good 15, 16 hours for us. And so, how long does it take to drive from Florida to Colorado?
I mean, that was like 30-hour drive.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
So, yeah, my plan is I drove my truck and trailer out there. I'm paying someone to fly out there and drive it back. I'm not wasting that time. And yeah, it's your time is valuable, Dude,
that you could be making a shitload of money during that time.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yep.
Just pay somebody to take
Most
care of it
definitely.
for you. 100%. Well, cool, man. Dude, there was a ton of value that was brought on this. That word gets thrown around in our space a ton, to where I almost don't even like to say it. But absolutely, dude, you shined a light on a ton of stuff, and I think a lot of these things are going to hit home with a lot of our listeners and viewers. Again, you're speaking to that demographic for sure. So, Cody, we'll go ahead and wrap this episode up. We'll put the links to, your Instagram. Do you have like a YouTube channel as well? You want guys to check out, or just Instagram?
Nope. My Instagram is going to be the best spot. YouTube might be coming, but if I do that, I'm going to go full ass and, get a content.
As with
guy
everything
follow me
else in your
around,
life.
So exactly. All or nothing. Hell
yeah.
Instagram
Only
is the
way to
best
do
place
it.
to get me and to reach out as well. So
Cool. 100%. Yeah, we'll tag you in all the posts and on the YouTube and in the iTunes and all that good stuff. Definitely give Cody a follow. He brings immense amount of good entertainment, packed with a lot of informational stuff on his Instagram. I definitely have a good feeling that a lot of you guys will enjoy his content for sure. So give him a follow. And again, Cody, I know it's taken over a month for us to logistically plan this podcast, but I appreciate you, moving your schedule around to make it happen. Thank you for coming on the show, dude. We'll talk to you soon.
yes, sir. And I appreciate you for making time for me. Much appreciated,
Absolutely, brother. Totally. We'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
100K on the Protect, living life with no regrets. I can't designer when I get dressed. Summertime on winter fresh. I put her legs behind her head. Night she gone to bed. Bye bye. Every day it's a new test. I just keep chasing these chicks.